Hello, today I'll be presenting the scenario for Services, which is a hiring services company operating out of the European Union, out of the United Kingdom specifically, and then with offices across the European Union. They operate with euros, so we'll be using the euro as the default currency, but also have multi-currency enabled for its presence within Switzerland, as well as other non-euro countries. But on the topic of hiring services, they're seeking to replace manual processes with a unified system, specifically replacing an Access database that they're currently using as the candidate center. Some of the risks identified is that we're going to be operating in the European Union, so we'll have GDPR compliance important. We'll enable Shield, which will enable us to manage our own keys, as well as event monitoring, as well as compliance with the data data consent, data privacy rights there in Europe. And then, of course, we'll be dealing as well, maybe with health data as well, given the fact that we have two lines of business, the certified lines of business, which includes health data. So we'll need to enable Shield as well for the event monitoring and also for the two-way encryption for MTLS. The assumptions are made is that Salesforce will be the system record for candidates and jobs. Active Directory will act as the IDP and any provider for this solution. We'll have Okta enabled as well as the IDP, and then Okta will be federated and with a Active Directory. We'll take an API-led approach with MuleSoft for the European licensings and government systems that have separate protocols. So the MuleSoft will act as a fan-out system for the different, as a mediator for those different protocols. We'll decommission the candidate center, which is the Access database I mentioned earlier. We will have then a Informatica solution that will then be provisioned by a data steward that will migrate data from the candidate center to the Salesforce solution. And then the lines of businesses that I talked about earlier with the certified and casual have their own specific record types with visibility restrictions for those different record types as well. Moving on now to the actors, we have the account executives that will receive Sales Cloud license for access to opportunities. The VPs will receive Sales Cloud license as well as CRMA for the advanced analytics as well as opportunity access. Customers as in the people who are seeking to have jobs filled will receive Customer Community Plus licenses for access to advanced sharing. And then the candidates themselves will also access the system, and they'll use Customer Community license for access to their own records. Role hierarchy will be partitioned by different regions and countries based on the tier. So for tier 2, we have different A's that will be partitioned by country that roll up to a manager and then a regional VP. Regional VP receives a Tableau CRMA license for the advanced analytics. Then we have centralized roles as well for the centralized talent and billing. Billing specifically will have access to the NetSuite, Oracle NetSuite, Canvas app for the billing and monitoring there. The tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 AEs will as well be centralized and have a separate branch in the role hierarchy that is not region specific. The solution itself will use a single org, will enable multi-language for the custom labels that will then multi-language that will be translated by Translation Workbench and translate custom labels, and there's of course email templates that will be done by a translator. The multi-currency, like I mentioned, will be the default corporate currency will be the euro, and then we'll have other currencies enabled for the other regions that they are present in, including Ukraine and Russia. The solution itself will have installed DocuSign for the e-signature capability, Salesforce Archive for the archival of large data volumes, Salesforce Surveys for the surveys that are sent out to the candidates and to the customers. And then Shield will be enabled for the compliance reasons, like I mentioned. We'll also have SF Voice enabled, Salesforce Voice enabled, which will integrate using a CTI connector with Amazon Connect for the telephony features. The internal users will authenticate using Okta, using SAML via Okta. Okta will then federate identities of the Active Directory system. The solution itself takes an API-led approach. The ESP plays an important role where it will mediate the communication with the government licensing systems, as well as the government systems. There's different protocols as well as different standards for those different systems, so the ESP will then mediate that and also expose experience APIs and system APIs for the purposes of the government systems. Oracle NetSuite will also be persisted and be retained from the current back office system implementation. This will also have a Canvas app that's within Salesforce. Users will be able to authenticate to Salesforce, and then Salesforce will pass a SAML assertion to Oracle NetSuite for the ability for them to do single sign-on there too, the ability user as well. Moving on now to the requirements for job postings. Moving on to new businesses. The new businesses are able to be created within Salesforce as business accounts. Those are created via leads within Salesforce. So there will be lead records within the solution for them to have a temporary record for the qualification. Those are then exposed and created via a web to lead form within the solution as well. These are managed by the account executives that are then able to qualify the leads and then create business accounts as a result of them. They're tiered by revenue. So the tier 1, they're defaulted to the tier 3 since they aren't necessarily already existing as revenue, but they'll be recorded. The accounts themselves are recorded based on the tier using a custom field on the account itself. That will then be updated ad hoc or updated using automation, scheduled automation that calculates their revenue and their projected revenue, and then updating the tier based on that. Employees are also able to register. They will register using the site. They will first register on the website and provide key information, including their PII data. We'll make sure that this is in compliance with GDPR and with the PII restrictions around GDPR by exposing a screen flow on the site using an iframe. That iframe will also create also a individual contact, point contact object record for them to manage consent for the data and for the for outreach as well. For casual candidates, that will be marked on their person account record as a casual candidate initially. They will upload when they are created as a casual candidate. They will also upload documentation that are stored as content documents that are related to the person account. The certified candidates themselves are follow the same process where it's a screen flow that will be exposed via an iframe, but there will be more documentation that's required. And so if they are a certified candidate based on the role that they're applying for, based on certain attributes, they will have additional screens for them to upload additional documentation that's required. That documentation is then verified against external sources, which is in this case the different government systems. What we'll do is have a integration where when they upload a document, there will be a call out to the government systems that returns a response based on the validity of the document that's been uploaded. When the candidate needs to update the information, they've previously been doing that using a phone call, but they'd like to have it done using the portal. So what the candidates will be able to do is go into the candidate portal. They'll be able to update their information using a self-service. And then if the candidate wants to update their availability, they can do so as well from there as well. So what the candidate can do is they can mark themselves as a status of available, and that will then make them available for any new jobs that posted, similar to LinkedIn, for example. Okay, and now moving on to the job posting. So a customer will, the business will then, if they have a job that they want to post, they will contact HireMeServices using their phone. They will expose the phone number and enable the CTI and call center using Salesforce Voice, and that will then create an opportunity for the purpose of the job. The roles, the individual jobs and the roles that they're trying to hire will be recorded as opportunity line items as well. That will then be linked to price books and price book entries and store the actual pricing of those different roles. Any sort of notes that the customer would like to outline as a part of the process will then be captured under opportunity notes as well. Pricing model is going to be reported, like I mentioned, under the price books and price book entries. There's 5,000 variations of skills and industries, so those will be recorded as products and price books. So the variation of the different industries will be different price books, and then the skills will be different products. So you have that matrix. So the 5,000 unique variations reduces significantly that way. There will be a flag on the opportunity as well for them to expedite the process for hiring, so to within 4 weeks. So that will be just a flag that the internal users can capture. And then once the opportunity is ready to be signed, the job is ready to be published, there'll be a DocuSign envelope that will be sent to the customer that they will then sign. Once they've signed it, there will be a integration with NetSuite that will do a request and a reply call out to NetSuite, and then NetSuite, once it returns a response, there will be the process for matching candidates to the jobs that were posted. That will also create the contract that's associated with the opportunity. The contract is going to be the lifecycle record for the actual job posting. And then the contract line items represent then the job listings, so the different roles that they're trying to hire. So the contract itself is just the duration or the overall life cycle for the agreed upon duration. And then the contract line items represent the different roles they're trying to hire and the quantities of those roles. Once the job list is ready, so once any communication that the customer needs to be clued into with regards to the listing will be done using an email that will be triggered within Salesforce. The customers will be able to see the different job candidates via their access to the contract line items. Those contract lines, like I mentioned, were the roles. And those contract line items then look up to the contract line items have then a related listing of different job candidates that are owned by the customer as well. Those job candidates are then reviewed, and then follow a life cycle of interviews that are facilitated by the talent team. The job candidate is owned by the customer, so they'll have access to the life cycle. If they want to proceed with the job candidates, then they can proceed it through the life cycle further. Candidates can also apply themselves for different roles. The job candidates themselves will, represented here as person accounts, will be able to see the contracts and the contract line items via the fact that the contract itself has separate sharing than the business accounts. So we'll have the contracts exposed using an LWC for the different job candidates that they would like. If they would like to filter for the different roles that they can apply for, they can do so using the LWC from the job portal. The job candidate will have a life cycle itself with a final step where there's a DocuSign envelope that's sent to the job candidate where they'll sign it. And then once they signed it, that signed document will then be attached to the job candidate record here. And that will then complete the job candidate lifecycle and then the overall contract is fulfilled. The Ukrainian records, so there's specific region, specific visibility for based on the country. So we'll have private OWD by default for the contract and the contract line items. I'm assuming that the users based on that region is internal only, not for external. So for external, you can see the general. For external users, they can see generally the different jobs, and they can filter down from there. But for internal, we'll have criteria-based sharing rules for the Ukrainian region. And then for Russia, we'll also have a criteria-based sharing rule as well. And that's specifically for the business accounts. And we'll also have IP logging as well using Shield for the event monitoring for the Russian records and the Russian users to monitor them specifically. Account executives should only be able to see the customers in the country. There will be ownership-based sharing rules on the country for the account executives plus the country teams. Same thing for the tier 2 customers, so there will be ownership-based sharing rules for them as well. The tier 1 customers who've been once a customer's been tier 1 for more than a year, they don't see to be visible to the country team. So the country team will have restriction rules applied so that they don't have access to the tier 1 users or tier 1 accounts. The central team, the tier 1 contracts rather. The central team should be able to see all tier 3 customers. There'll be criteria-based sharing rules there too. And since it's a centralized team, there'll just be one for that tier 3 customers there, where there isn't region-specific visibility restrictions. And then for Netherlands and Switzerland, there will be private OWD for those countries, and that will be shared using the criteria-based sharing rules there too. Last week from the portal or from the Salesforce using a Canvas app. Canvas app will be exposed and then have single sign-on enabled with Salesforce as the IDP that will pass a SAML assertion to NetSuite for their access. And then given the large data volumes here in the solution, we'll have Salesforce Archive enabled for the specific candidates. And then those candidates will be archived over the course of based on the retention policies described here. So they need to be available in the Salesforce platform for 2 years. So we'll have them in the system for 2 years, and then Salesforce Archive will archive the 5-year, any older than 2-year matches to S3 buckets that are stored as CSVs. For reporting, we have the reporting on job candidates to track candidates and how they are placed and how successful they are. The country managers will be able to view and report on their AE's effectiveness using their role hierarchy access. They'll have standard reporting themselves. For any trend reporting that the VPs need to do, they'll have access to CRNA for that trend reporting to see who's likely to change tier next 12 months. And that will then be able to be, that will also be enabled using opportunity pipelines as well, since we have opportunities being used for the job postings and the opportunities there. So they'll be able to report on that using opportunities instead. Regional VPs will be able to report on customers who've changed tier in the last 12 months using standard reporting as well. We'll have a way for the different opportunities we'll have field history tracking on the tier for the last 12 months so that they have the ability to report on the history access on the history object. We'll have Salesforce surveys enabled to measure customer satisfaction for tier 1 customers. And then the billing team will be able to report via the NetSuite access on all outstanding invoices. I'm not going to have invoices tracked specifically within the system. NetSuite will manage all of that. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.